This time I'd like to call to order the April 7th, 2022 regular meeting of the Common Council of the City of Plattsburgh. It is 5 p.m. Mayor Rosenquist can't be with us this evening, so he asked me to run the meeting. Well, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Carlin, would you please conduct a roll call?
Mayor Rosenquist. Council Canales.
Here.
Council Kelly.
Here.
Council Gibbs.
Here.
Council Talon.
Here.
Council Buck.
Here.
Council Moore.
Here.
All councilors have received a copy of the minutes of the March 17th, 2022 regular meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I will now entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Motion by Councilor Box, seconded by Councilor Canales. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Okay, I will now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with the council on any topic. Anyone in the audience wish to speak? No. Okay. We'll now go to the committee reports. Starting with Councilor Bob and City Operations.
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay, Finance and Economic Development, that would be Mayor Rosenquist. And all I could say in his stead is that we do have a finance and community development meeting next week, correct, Mr. Martin?
Correct.
Okay, did you have anything you wanted to add?
It's Wednesday, right?
The April, excuse me, the March financial statements ready for that.
Okay, that'd be good.
Also reporting that we finalized our AUD information for New York State reporting for 2021. I think the last two complicated errors that had to be corrected, say, just about 15 minutes ago. So we're
Okay,
be ready to go with that for the audit, and then my next step is to establish all the clear budgeting issues for this
okay.
June session.
Well, we'll be looking forward to updates on all those things at that finance meeting.
Yeah, the clear I have some accounts that I have to go with them, just report it back to the last update. They have some accounts they couldn't load, so we have to figure those out, and then we'll go on to setting up the budget processes.
Okay, very good.
And ready to go with that roughly in June.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's see. City infrastructure, Councilor Moore.
Well, we held our April meeting this Monday. We got 7 items that are on to be moved to the agenda, and they're on tonight's
Okay,
agenda.
those were thoroughly discussed in the committee meeting, but some of our councilors may have questions, so we'll try our best to answer. Let's see, public safety, Councilor Canales.
Nothing to report at this time, although I'd like to commend our police department with the work that they've been doing as of late. They've just been on top of it nonstop and just proper collaboration with all agencies in the Tri-County area. I appreciate what they're doing. We have our safety meeting on the 18th. Besides that, nothing further.
Well, maybe we can hear some more about those things.
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. Now we'll move to liaison reports, public library, Councilor Talon.
Okay, so the last meeting was March 22nd, and they're looking forward to the roof replacement. They said they're visited by the safety officer for that construction company, and they said that they're a very organized company, so they're looking forward to the replacement.
Good, good. And last but not least, PMLD, Councilor Gibbs.
So we had our meeting last week. Think about
Last
that.
Thursday.
Yep, it was last week. So we discussed the electric vehicle policy. There's still some finalizations to do on the document. I'm hoping that will come before council in 2 weeks for approval. Also, as part of that meeting, we discussed reviving the climate smart communities and looking into the clean energy community. So we have a meeting Rochelle Armstrong, myself, Diana Wardell, we have a meeting with the mayor next Wednesday before our finance meeting to talk about getting that committee up and running again. And there are 3 items up on the agenda tonight for approval that were approved and discussed thoroughly at the meeting. 758 through 760 were all discussed at the MLD meeting.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Gibbs. And Corporation Counsel Schneller has advised me he has no reports or no need for executive session tonight. Okay, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the payrolls for various city departments for the weeks ending April 6, 2022 in the amount of $489,064.70. Motion by Councilor Canales, seconded by Councilor Moore. Roll call, please.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes,
Okay, I will now entertain a motion to approve the bills audited by the Common Council for the weeks ending April 8, 2022 in the amount of $851,350.20.
Motion.
Motion by Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bob. Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Okay, next are resolutions, and before voting on these resolutions, I'll note that the majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees and department heads in our committee meetings. We're now taking action on these items in large part due to the recommendations of the committees. We'll add that if there are any questions or concerns about any of the items, please feel free to ask or make comments as you wish. Ms. Carlin, will you please read the titles of the resolutions to be acted upon?
Item 7.49, mayoral appointment.
Okay,
Motion.
by Councilor Gibbs and seconded by Councilor Bob. Thank you. Okay, roll call?
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Okay,
Item 7.50, requesting state legislation to add 3 police officers to the 384B section of the New York State Policeman's and Fireman's Retirement System 20-year plan due to a retirement benefit election error.
Motion.
Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bob. Discussion.
Yeah, I have some questions. So I read the supporting documentation for this. And I guess I don't understand how there can be an election error. That was my first question. I don't understand how there could be an election error when the officers sign up, but is this legislation going to affect other officers down the road?
No, ma'am.
It won't?
No, what this was, so it's user error essentially when they were the ones filling out their paperwork, they just chose the wrong retirement system. It's a completely different system. So what this is just us going through the whole entire process from A to Z, ensuring that it goes up to, I believe, Dean will be able to tell me if I'm wrong on this, but it has to be basically go up to Senate.
Mhm.
State
Yes, I
Senate,
saw the letter
yeah.
from Dan Steck's office.
Correct. So it has to be legislated there.
So are they moving out of different tiers?
Yes, from the 25 option to the 20-year.
No, the
option, which
tier, like tier 1, tier 2, tier
No,
3, they're
no.
not moving
The
out of
only thing-
tiers.
No, the only thing that's changing is they're going from the 25-year retirement to the 20-year retirement.
So
It's the
they're
only
set to
difference.
retire next year, right? All 3 officers?
I believe so.
And what's the cost to the city?
Oh, that I don't know.
They're not
What's-
retiring next year.
I don't have an estimate of that cost, but they'll calculate what it takes to catch up the contributions for them to be on the 20-year cycle versus 25. And they'll just bill it through the city's retirement bill whenever the next opportunity comes up.
We don't know what that dollar amount is?
I have no idea.
I mean, it's a 5-year shrink. It's not next year, excuse me, it's 24, I think is what the documentation said. 20.
You retired that.
I thought that's what it said. They're all 3 of them are set to retire. I think it's a 2024?
This is just to change
They
the.
started at different years.
Different years, okay.
They started all within the time that I've been here, so.
Okay.
They're-
Maybe I am remembering the document wrong, but nonetheless, we're shrinking by 5 years. There's going to have to be some kind of contribution from the city, but you don't know what that is?
No. Don't have to.
Okay.
This is
And at
also
this point, I
further-
believe all we're asking is for the state legislators to take this issue up. We're not approving a financial resolution here. We're just asking them to move this to the state senate for consideration. That's my understanding.
Correct.
Like Councilor Canal said, there's two options on the return, 20-year plan, 25-year plan. These three individuals filled out the 25-year section. And their union goes over the form with them, and tells them, so I don't know why they elected at this time to say, wait a minute, I meant 20 instead of 25. But it looks clearly like when they signed up for it, they intended to have 25. You rare, change your mind, I don't know. We don't expect it, but it's gonna cost more, but it'll be buried in the retirement contribution. For those three individuals, whenever it's adjusted.
What do you mean it'll be buried?
We get a bill from the retirement system.
Mm-hmm.
It covers everybody in the city. So each and every individual is listed, but it comes in as a flat figure for say tier 6 individuals, which these people will be unless one of them is tier 5. I can't recall. So it'll be part of tier 5 cost or tier 6 cost. Now,
I
to
see.
find out the individual cost, we'll have to ask about that and see how it differs, but it's gonna be an after the fact question to see what the cost difference is.
Thank you.
I believe it has to do with their bargaining agreement.
Further
Doesn't
discussion?
it have to do with their bargaining agreement?
Well, you know, that's part of the discussion because it says the police retirement plan, but when they revised the plan at the state level, they offered a 25-year option. So if they made that option choice, one of it, they could serve that. So it's not just the contracts, I know we made a mistake and have to go back and fix that. But once again, the city had nothing to do with filling out the form.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
No.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes,
Item 7.51, authorized consulting services for updating PORP interstate facilities permit.
Motion.
Counselor Canals, seconded by Counselor Bob. Discussion. Might be good if we had an explanation of what the port is all about. Mr. Ruff. if you don't
Port
mind.
is the Plattsburgh Organics recycling plant. I had to think about that. It's been a long time since I said it. It used to be the Clinton County Compost Facility. It's located out off of Ruger Street on Reeves Lane. It's on part of the property that we just annexed. And it's a facility that can process organics, in particular biosolids from the wastewater treatment facility. Plant hasn't operated since 2006, but we've maintained the permits to operate it if we ever need to. We've got 3 or 4 other disposal options ahead of this one. We've never needed to run it, but having a facility that can run or process their own material is very valuable. So we've maintained all the permits. We have an air discharge permit out there. There never used to be an expiration date on the permits, but the state changed their regulations. And now that we're putting, I think, 10-year life cycles on air permits. So we need to make an application to get our permit renewed for the next 10 years. And this is the consulting services to do that, in particular, the air modeling that needs to be done in order to get the permit.
I think I recall this being done in the past.
Yeah, we've done air modeling in the past when we've had permit modifications to change from composting to alkaline treatment. We had to go through a whole process. The permit they issued had no expiration date, which was great. But again, now they've changed the regulations, so we need to reapply.
Questions or discussion? Roll call?
Council Canals?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes,
Item 7.52, authorize WRRF dewatering upgrades contract 1G Brandon Construction Change Order G2.
Motion.
Motion by Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Gibbs. John, I noticed you stayed at the
I'll
podium.
stay just in case there's some more questions.
Good, good move.
Quick. So we have a dewatering upgrade project at the wastewater plant that's just about finished. So what we're doing is a change order to reconcile a lot of the costs at the end. When we do some of these large projects, we include an allowance, which is some money that we can use to execute small changes in the field. Work directive seems to keep the project moving without really committing the city spending a lot of money. We typically don't use all that allowance money. So what this, and we didn't in this case, so what this change order does is reduces the project cost for the unused amount of the allowance money that we didn't need to spend. So it's actually a deduct to the contract price.
Actually a refund to the city.
Correct.
In other words, that's good news. Okay. Not hard to vote for that one. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call?
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
yes,
Item 7.53, amendment number 1 to parking kiosk purchase and service agreement.
By Councilor Gibbs, seconded by Councilor Canales. Discussion.
Oh, I thought he was coming. Matt, can you give us some explanation on this? I mean, I read it, but can you, can you give us some explanation?
So there are some additional upfront costs to the parking kiosk system that the council authorized last fall. This amendment includes 3 software components for that system. The first being the purchase of the IPS permit management system that will, to a large degree, automate the process of purchasing and managing those permits within the system itself. It also includes 2 charges for integration of the city's existing ComPlus enforcement system, those little handhelds that PD carries around to issue tickets with the IPS system, so everything works smoothly. And also the integration of the Park Mobile payment platform, which is one of the most widely utilized and well-known municipal parking platforms for payments throughout the country. So it's a total of $9,000 additional in spending on this contract for the system.
Not bad.
Is that already budgeted or is that coming from a particular
I'm
fund?
working with Chamberlain Marks on a updated capital project resolution to reflect the additional costs.
$9,000, correct?
So $9,000 as a capital.
Out of the capital project as an upfront cost for the system. There will be ongoing operating costs for the system, which aren't appropriate to put into the capital project, but these upfront costs are deemed appropriate for that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was thinking the council approved of, the full expenditure of $149,000 last year
Yeah, it did.
in lieu of the capital project.
Mhm.
So does this mean that the $9,000 will come out of the general fund?
Rich?
The 149,918 come out of the general fund in this case, the parking fund advances to the capital fund. I know that they should change the payment in that, but that's the way we got to do it. Because the parking fund didn't have enough cash, general fund does. So advance. And so the decision by the council wasn't to add the 149,918 to the bond resolution approval, to borrow that money this past March 15th in the ban. So it's going to be an expenditure from one of those funds as an expense
Okay,
to the capital fund when they spend the money. This will be the same thing if you don't authorize borrowing the whole project, which we still can do because we only borrow this money until November of this year. So when we roll it forward, we can put through another bond resolution to add the parking system to it. And in my opinion, it makes sense to do that because then you're matching your expenses with the revenue. So debt service over a 10-year period for this would match up with the revenue earned over a 10-year period instead of being a 1 expense of ripping the Band-Aid.
And
So
to Rich's,
that's your decision at that point in time we come to that.
and to Rich's point about bonding it over 10 years versus paying it all up front, it was always the intention to structure the fee system for the parking system to pay the annual operating costs of the system, including debt service. So when council made the decision to pay the entirety of that contract upfront last year, from a strictly pricing standpoint, that would require us to front load the fee structure in the first year to account for that very large upfront expense, as opposed to amortizing that cost over the course of 10 years, which makes it a far more predictable and makes it easier for us to justify a very standardized, very uniform fee structure throughout those first 10 years.
I think it's safe to say for right now, this additional $9,000 expense is going to come from the general fund. Is that correct?
In short, yes, yeah.
Correct?
Yep.
Okay, okay. And then the general fund, as we know, is very healthy at the moment, so we should be able to absorb a $9,000 cost, I would think. Are there any other items for discussion or comments about this resolution?
Well, and just to clarify, this is absolutely necessary for the system to function, right?
It is.
There we go.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pretty good deal too. We get 3
is.
interfaces for $9,000,
That's wonderful.
fairly reasonable. And Matt reassured me at our last infrastructure meeting, I believe, that we will try to buy at some point the IPS version of enforcement, so that there won't be a need for an interface anymore, at least for that part.
Correct. The only reason that we didn't do it at this time was because the way that agreement with Complex is structured does not allow us to cancel it at this point in the term. So another year we'll be able to cancel and move all of the aspects of the parking system under the IPS umbrella to minimize speeds.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes,
Council Moore?
yes,
Item 7.54, authorized right of entry property license agreement, Lake Forest Senior Living Community Incorporated.
Councilor Gibbs, seconded by Councilor Bob. Discussion. This is something we've approved in the past. This allows a private entity to go onto city property and make amendments to the landscape there. And they, in the past, we've had issues with it, but this time they promised to do it very responsibly and in a way that's in agreement with city policies. Did you have anything to add, Andrew?
Like you said, it's typical. Every year they come to us, basically, they go across the railroad tracks, they get permission from CP, they usually have a rail guard. They go in, they select and cut brush, basically for the view shed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
yes,
Council Moore?
yes,
Item 7.55, authorizing and revising capital project H5110.85, 2022 public service building.
Moved by Councilor Canales, seconded by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion.
this is for the city hall.
Yes.
These steps and we're in the research on the roof to see what we might need to do next year.
Yes.
Happy for this. I don't like to see our building in disrepair.
No, it's and we all have to admit, it's really come up a lot since the windows are going in. It's really pleasant to see. Okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
yes,
Council Moore?
Yes,
Item 7.56, approval of evaluation of the roof for potential replacement and the entry stairs for repair resetting for City Hall.
Motion.
Moved by Councilor Canales, seconded by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion. I will say that the city was able to piggyback this roofing project with the repair of the steps project. And I believe we saved ourselves some money in that evaluation. I believe the roofing part of it is only $5,500 to get someone up on the roof to tell us what we need to do to repair it permanently. Any more discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes,
Item 7.57, authorizing revising capital project H5110.84, 2022 street resurfacing.
Moved by Counselor Gibbs, seconded by Counselor Bob. Discussion.
Think people will be happy about this?
They got a pretty ambitious schedule this year. If you guys had a chance to look at it.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Andrew or Michael?
So this change actually is to correct a mistake when we created a capital project. So we put down Kentucky and we should have had Louisiana. It's not that Kentucky's not going to get done. The other issue we're going to have to monitor very closely is due to obviously petroleum prices going up, and Chamberlain Marks and I have talked about it. We might be revisiting this resolution and amending it up. Now, that's bad news. Good news is we do have ample CHIPS money paid New York and EWR to cover any sort of escalation clauses. So as we get the final estimates and be a little bit closer to this work being done, the first 3 roads out there look good based on the estimates I've gotten back. And the next 3 that I'm looking at right now, we'll have to hit the final. So there might be one more amendment, but again, the money is there to cover it.
What about what about inflation and cost of materials? Is that
Everything is crazy.
Yeah, well, I know it's expensive. I know that, but I guess what I'm asking is, do you anticipate change orders for increase in costs in that regard?
These contracts right here are time and material contracts. We work off of we piggyback on the county contract for labor and equipment. So I have to create an estimate and get as close as I can. Then we call on a contractor to look at it using their rates they post. So it basically, you could call it a change order. If they exceed what our estimate is, we still have to pay them regardless. It's by the hour. It's kind of an a la carte menu we have. We're not hiring them to manage a project. We actually manage it internally. So all these jobs, we're doing the prep work actually starting tomorrow out of Iowa Circle. We're going to start with that work. So we do all the prep work. We get it ready for the paving contractor. We use our trucks, our sweepers, everything. We have the structures, and then the paving contractor shows up with a paver, a couple of rollers, and a paving crew. We haul the asphalt, we buy the asphalt, we do all that. But as far as escalation clauses, right now, their prices are locked in on the county contract. So
okay.
They're not particularly happy with it. The one thing that isn't locked in is the asphalt price. They have what they call an escalation clause in the contract, and it's based on petroleum prices.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
That can go up.
Yes, and it's gone up $2 in the last month.
$2 a ton.
Yeah.
A ton.
Yeah, so we'll just, like I said, we'll monitor it. Like I said, that's the bad news. The good news is we have, like I said, we're doing very well, and we still don't have our chips. This is not money that we've even gotten yet. Like they still have to approve the state budget. So we haven't got our chips, EWR, paid New York, or touring routes money for this year. So this is only spending money that we already have in basically called rollover money.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
yes,
Item 7.58, authorizing NOV to advertise the bids.
Actually, Beth, I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading for 758, 759, and 760 and move the resolution.
Waive and move the resolution.
Yes, waive the reading for all 3 items because we discussed those in the MLD meeting.
Waive and move because otherwise we just wait and we still have to.
Yeah. That's what I meant. So I make a motion to do that.
A motion by Counselor Gibbs, seconded by Counselor Bach. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse
All
me.
opposed? Okay.
Any discussion?
Just ask if there's any discussion.
Any discussion on the three items we talked about and collected? Okay, thank you. Any discussion on those three items? We discussed it pretty thoroughly in the NLB meeting last week. Just ready for roll call?
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Is there any call for executive session from councilors tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Any new business?
Well, I have a number of questions. Last year, we paid 5,000, and I don't know if anybody can answer this since the mayor's not here, but I'll just bring them up now. Last year, we paid for a countywide EMS study to be included as part of a countywide EMS system, and we never heard back on that. Jamie, as chair of public safety, you have any update or information on that? So if we could get an update on what happened there, because we put in $5,000 for that study. I think that would be important for council to know. We also budgeted for a deputy chamberlain and was wondering if we can get an update on that. We budgeted for an assistant fire chief. And if we could get an update on that. And now that there's been some movement in the police department, can the council get an updated, like a structural chart like we've had in the past? So those are some of the requests for information that I have.
Sure thing.
Be in work chart?
Yeah, so now that we've got a new lieutenant coming up, that shifts everything else down below, and I'd like to see a reorganization chart, please.
No problem.
Okay, those are all the questions that I had. Oh, and I know the mayor at the MLD meeting, I brought up the greenhouse gas grant status from 2020, so just waiting for an update on that as well.
Other new business? At this moment, I will take a motion to adjourn from Councilor Canales and seconded by Councilor Gibbs. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.